Good evening. Welcome to the Pearl Report. I'm Diana Lin. There are schools that have been sitting idle in Hong Kong for years, some of them in urban areas. With the housing crunch, community groups have been looking at the buildings and wondering whether people could be living in them. Chris Lincoln reports some have gone as far as drawing up plans. But will they work?
I think the concrete quality is quite good here.
These men are interested in empty schools.
We are trying to find some good quality or the condition is good, and then very close to the different community, have a good infrastructure. That kind of school to develop our design.
Their design would turn vacant schools into homes for people now living in subdivided flats. Victor Chu is a master's student in architecture at Chuhai College.
The conditions of the concrete.
Paul Chu is his supervisor.
This is the covered playground, which we can actually put our communal spaces and facilities that will benefit the people from the surrounding, so that this is not only for the subdivided unit residents.
The government says this site will be kept for further educational use. Classes ended here 7 years ago.
If the school abandoned here maybe for 7 years, it's a waste in the society.
Hong Kong's student population has been dropping for years because of a falling birth rate. Old schools, long closed, were joined by others under a consolidation policy that began in 2003. Government and aided schools that failed to enroll enough new Primary 1 students were shut down. In 2015, the Director of Audit criticized the government for allowing some school premises to go unused.
Leaving ex-school premises and sites vacant for a long period is a waste of land resources and does not meet public expectation.
That triggered some community groups to come up with their own plans to use the idle space.
Officially, it's already vacant, no use, and things start from 2011. So the schools moved to another place and they settled over there.
The last classes were indeed held here 6 years ago. Like King Kwok's group has been trying to convince the government this place is suitable for people already living in the area who are waiting for public housing.
It's convenience. It's close to public estate and bus stations, and I think it's quite good for people who are working in the urban areas.
Mrs. Chan lives in this subdivided flat in Kwun Tong with her teenage son. She says she worries about the risk of fire.
One flat is divided into several units. I am very careful about using electricity. When I use the air conditioner, I won't use the water heater. I dare not turn them on at once. But how about other people? I am very worried. It's very smelly, and when it rains, water leaks into the bathroom. It costs a hefty 5,500 Hong Kong dollars a month. That's 60% of my income. The contract ends in February. The rent might go up or the landlord might stop renting the flat to me. It's hard for me to move. I'm very afraid.
Mrs. Chow raises her daughter in a subdivided flat nearby. Like Mrs. Chan, she says she worries about the risk of a fire. And she says it's no place to raise a child.
It's bad for children growing up because it's very crowded. It's always very humid here. It's bad for children's long-term health.
Both of these women have heard about a plan to turn the former St. Joseph's School into transitional housing. It's Victor Chu's plan, and he's been working more than a year on the design.
Now we are not only design a place for the subdivided unit residents, we are trying to design something also for the surrounding community.
Victor and Chuhai College did earlier work in Kwai Chung to give people in subdivided flats a more comfortable neighborhood.
We transformed a road which belonged to a highway to become a public space, so that the residents from those subdivided units living just right next to this path, we provide them a place for them to gather, to talk to each other, and to hold activities. So in that process, we really find that the social sustainability can actually be promoted through architectural means. And because of that, we started to look at subdivided units, living conditions, and all that 3 years ago.
At the Kwun Tong School, there are some built-in advantages.
It has a very special, you can say, character. You have a very big theater and then a very huge covered playground. And we try to turn it into a Sunday market on the ground floor. And then we demolish some part of the external wall and then engage more people can easily go inside the market. The site area is not big, but the floor area is very big. So that's why it's one of the reasons I choose this school. It can contain around 100 of family, and the maximum have 380 people can live in here together. The cost is around 9,000 something per meter square for this project. If you compare to public housing and other residential units, it's already very cheap.
The rent would be similar to public housing.
So it's just about 1,000 or 2,000 Hong Kong dollar per month.
And tenants might feel more secure.
You can live there until you move to a public housing flat. Rent won't go up arbitrarily, and the rent is much cheaper compared with here. When your life becomes stable, you can spend time learning things. You'll be more ready to face other things in life and not have to worry about moving or about a rent increase.
Old ladies like me like to hang my clothes. Whether it's winter or summer, we hang up the blankets. There's no room here. I can see there is plenty of room there.
The housing units are prefabricated modules to be lifted by cranes and placed right into the school. The next design challenge is reversing what has been done here so the building could one day be home to students again.
If the school is really going to be resumed to become a school function, how can the design interventions be retrofitted back to become a school function?
Paul Chu says looking at the way people lived at Kai Tak Mansion, a former subdivided flats hub nearby, inspired the idea to reuse schools.
It gives us an overall picture of how the subdivided units, the dwellers' conditions are in Kwun Tong, and therefore we thought the residents' needs and also the vacant schools' condition would match.
Getting the government to see a match is another thing. In her policy address, Carrie Lam said the government had to think out of the box to increase the supply of transitional housing, such as optimizing the use of idle government premises by providing rental housing units. Lai King-kwok says he has met with Transport and Housing Secretary Frank Chan.
The transitional housing, like using the vacant school, is one of our suggestions to Frank Chan, and his response is quite positive to us. At least he didn't say no, it's not possible, which is our response from the last government. He said no, it's not possible, it's cost a lot.
Lai puts the cost to get in here at $90 million, money he says they will have to raise.
This belongs to the government, it's the land. So that I think they maybe we need to rent it in $1, or I think it's not much for the rental for the premises.
The biggest hurdle is getting the Education Bureau to part with the school even temporarily. Some vacant school premises are turned over to the lands departments if the Education Bureau is no longer interested in them. They're made available for short-term use, but not this one.
We believe that it's still under the Education Bureau because we cannot find it in the lands department, the vacant school needs.
The Education Bureau would only say this site is needed to meet future educational demands.
Having a lot of people moving into newly built estates in Kwun Tong, and then there are excessive school place demand.
Within sight of this school was another vacant one that was turned over to the newly established Hong Kong Army Cadets last year.
It's a military organization, so quite close to the CY Leung.
In a very short period of time, they decided to hand it over to the Cadet Army. I think there are other NGOs and organizations requesting for that. And they are, I think, more qualified because they have been serving in that district already for a very long time. But all of a sudden, the school premise was handed over to that army without no very convincing explanation.
When we come back,
it seems like it has remained for education use for 10 years without any schools inside. So it is really a waste of time.
a lost opportunity in Shek Kip Mei. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Pearl Report. Community groups want to use vacant school premises in Hong Kong to house people now living in subdivided flats. The government, though, have other plans for many of the empty schools, and other users want the space too.
The school actually has moved to opposite to the street. It become bigger and become more advanced. But it seems like the Education Bureau do not have any new plan for the old school site. So I think it's a pity.
The former St. Francis of Assisi school in Shek Kip Mei has been sitting unused for 7 years. Tommy Ho's grassroots housing group has been trying to convince the Education Bureau to allow the temporary use of this place as residential accommodation. But a year ago, they went public with their idea.
The Education Bureau has actually promised that they will open the school for us to have a look inside. But after we have made the press conference to announce our planning proposal, and the Education Bureau is very, very nervous.
Tommy's group did get inside for a look.
We have measured, the size and also the possibility for us to do the redecoration. And we found that it is quite new. The facilities inside is kept in very good conditions.
They found an architect to come up with some ideas on how to use the space.
For the top 2 floors, that is the 5th and the 6th floor, we plan it to become housing rooms for people who are living in inadequate housing. The playground can be used for holiday bazaar and also some community activities such as movie screening or some social meeting.
And just as they went to push forward, everything stopped.
After we have handed in the proposal and we urged the government to reopen it again for us to have a more detailed investigation inside in order to quote for price, to make a detailed planning, the government suddenly announced in August that they will not allow us to apply it for short-term use because they have prepared it for the bidding for education organizations next year in order to use it for school again.
The Education Bureau told us that in August, it began a school allocation exercise to make this a time-limited aided primary school by the end of the year.
If the government just uses this as an excuse for refusing our proposal, that will be a loss because we can do a lot of meaningful stuff in this community.
As educator, I hope that we have adequate school spaces for our students. And at the same time, I think, as legislator, I want all the school premises being utilized to the best.
After the audit report, the Education Bureau published a list of districts in which vacant schools would be retained for school or other educational uses. But it doesn't say which schools. Kim Yoon says that frustrates schools looking for a physical home.
The names are actually not so important. The location is more important. A certain number of a certain street, so we can look at the place, and then the area, the size of the school premises.
Even until now, we don't know the formal process for applying the school. The only way we can do is to step by step to ask, what is the progress now, District Council? And they have to ask the Education Bureau and the Home Affairs Department. And the information process is very long.
From the NGOs that I've been dealing with, the main problem is they don't know how to operate the government system. And the government system is very bureaucratic and complex.
Ian Brownlee is a town planner who worked 16 years for the Hong Kong government and now consults. Some of his work is finding space for NGOs like Christian Action, who've been told by government they need to move from their Kowloon Bay headquarters. Ian, too, is interested in making use of empty schools, but not to meet housing needs.
I don't think we have a housing crisis. We have a problem, but not a crisis. So the idea of putting people into sites which are considered transitional but are still probably inadequate is not a good idea.
This vacant school in Wan Chai is another target of groups representing subdivided flat dwellers.
This one's in the middle of Wan Chai, and we know there's a large elderly population in the area. And this, to me, should be converted into some sort of elderly services centre. There's nothing in the vicinity to accommodate that. So the priority should be, what do we need in the area? How do we provide it? Do we get an NGO to come in? Do we support them to come in and provide it? Do we accommodate it? Several NGOs providing different types of services in the same building.
Some vacant schools have not been returned to government by school sponsoring bodies. This is one of them. The Wan Chai School, which opened in 1967. It's on land given by government for 75 years on what's called a private treaty grant. Student numbers were down, so this school closed in 2006. It sprang back to life, though, when the school sponsoring body arranged for international schools and needed space to use the premises here. The last one was the German-Swiss school, which ended 4 years here in June 2016. The Director of Audit used this school as a case study in his 2015 report. He noted the school sponsoring body had refused to voluntarily surrender the school premises to the Education Bureau when the primary school closed. The lease here is to operate a non-profit-making primary school. A failure to do that permits the Lands Department to take the site back. The Education Bureau said last week,
"We are discussing with other relevant departments regarding the surrender of the premises."
The schools closest to urban areas, like this one, are most likely to be kept for future educational use. If a school is unwanted by the Education Bureau, it ends up with the Planning Department, which suggests future long-term alternate uses. As of last spring, that list numbered 183 schools. Many former school sites have been marked for residential development. The school that was here at Lai King Estate in Kwai Chung has already been knocked down. Public rental housing will be built here. The plan is for 540 units by 2021. This is the former Bokman School in Shangshui. There have not been classes here since the early 2000s. The site is split. Part of it is government land, part of it is private. The recommended long-term use of this land is for GIC purposes. That's government, institution, or community. Things like schools or hospitals. The main block and the school building here are Grade 3 historical buildings. Many of the old schools on the planning department list are recommended as retained for GIC uses. That includes the Hoi Bun School in Le Yu Mun. It was kept and, with Jockey Club money, renovated to become a heritage and arts center. The same for the former Confucian Society Victoria English Primary School in Tai Hang, beside Causeway Bay. This place used to become the Tai Hang Fire Dragon Heritage Center. It's a different story for the former Tai Wai Public School. Here, there were applications made about a year ago to build small houses. That is in line with the recommended long-term use of the land, which is village-type development. Under the application, the school would be taken down and 10 small houses would be built on the site. And it's not only schools that sit empty on government land.
For instance, the old Electrical Mechanical Services office in Causeway Bay has been vacant for many years, just sitting there, some temporary uses, but it's sitting there and it could be used for something. We have the physical infrastructure that could be used to meet a social need, and therefore we should be trying to facilitate the use of the building to meet that need.
Well, thank you for watching our show. It will be re-aired on Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday, as well as online and on mobile apps. Until next time, from the Pearl Report team, good night, good luck, and good health.